All right. So it's up on the rack. I get kind of look under her skirt, see her secrets. So as far as to get the motor in the car, you kind of see we made these mounts. This is a universal mount kit from Summit. They came with like the plates that bolt to the block, and then like the poly bushings and these brackets and stuff. And then we took a set of small block Ford like stock mounts, cut them off to basically have this like flat plate with this dowel pin that sits in the factory K member, and use that as a base. And then we kind of dangled the whole motor and everything in and got it all, aligned and centered and at the correct angle and everything. And then kind of, in situ built the mounts, tacked them up, pulled them out, welded them up, and got them all there. The oil pan is a Holley 302-3. That's the oil pan that Holley calls for, like with their motor mounts that we couldn't get in time. But it's a good fitting pan for this application. It's got cast iron like shorty manifolds on it.
Factory manifolds, or is that like aftermarket shorty cast iron?
So they're an aftermarket shorty cast iron. Holley, they're Summit branded. It's a Summit branded like house brand, but they're effectively the same manifolds that Holley sells, but they're a lot cheaper. But they're a cast iron kind of shorty manifold, moving kind of backwards. Got your T56.
I see you did a little bit of hammering up here.
Yeah. We originally were running this thing on like a 17x8 with a 275 tire on it, and we just smoothed everything over so that it wouldn't tear up the tire too bad. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and you can even tell it still rubs a little bit. But I mean, if you're
off,
yeah, whether it's off road or if it's a race car, if your tires ain't rubbing, they're not big enough.
Yeah, and you did a little extra beefing up of the frames, or is that subframe connectors?
Yeah, so those are subframe connectors. That was like, I think we put these on before the car ever saw the road back in the day, because it's a wet noodle of a car.
Oh, T-top.
Yeah, it's the roofless like flexible flyer. But you got T56 out of F body. It's a Pipes off-road X pipe that I originally had in it back in the day with the small block setup, and then we made some custom pipes to fit the LS. So it's pretty tight, but it fits pretty well.
Yeah, it's tight, all right.
Yeah.
I don't think you could slip a dollar bill between there.
No. Yeah, they're pretty tight, but it all works.
Yep. I mean, it's not like you're worried about rattles.
No, not at all. This is a Holley cross member that they sell for like their Black Heart. They call it the Black Heart like Fox Body LS kit. It is supposed to be a bolt-in on a Fox Body, and I'm sure it probably is if you use like their entire kit.
There's your stock points right here, so you moved everything back. Yeah, but it helped having the subframe connectors.
Yeah, we moved everything back because we wanted to push the motor back if we're going to make custom mounts, and it pushed everything back. And luckily the subframes, they were there, had to give us enough to like put some weld nuts in and get the trans cross member in there relatively cleanly. Mm-hmm. As far as exhaust, it's all sitting there on the floor, but it's just Flowmasters and dumps.
Yeah.
The SN95 brakes, it's got the SN95 like e-brake brackets and equalizer and stuff in it, so that the e-brakes and everything work.
Oh, you got the what do they call this? The brass type brake lines?
Yeah, the Nikon. That's that's like a new addition. Originally, the V8, Fox Body cars, which is like the line that I put in this thing originally, they run the rear brake line like right through the center onto the top of the diff. And again, with our
drive shaft,
4-inch drive shaft and all the tunnel mods,
you don't want to lose your brakes when the drive shaft hits it.
Yeah, it was just kissing the brake line. So we made this a few weeks ago and ran it, out of the way of the drive shaft.
Yeah, my daughter's truck, we call it the Turd. We redid all the brake lines. We towed it from, Tom, our buddy Tom, helped pull it out of it was a barn find, pull it out of the barn, going down a creek, creek bed with a strap and coming up. I noticed that the brakes didn't work after you push on it, and it popped, and it was one of the brake lines rusted through. So luckily the emergency brake worked, and the other luck was when I got to the bottom of the creek, the emergency brake didn't stick, because that would have been really bad pulling that thing uphill with the, off a tow strap with the back wheels locked up. But it worked out okay. But I really like that new type of brake line. It forms real easy, and hopefully it doesn't corrode. It's not supposed to. So
that NICOP's really easy stuff to work with.
You don't kink it as easy as the other stuff.
No, we did on my Toyota pickup, I did the entire rear line with it from the axle forward, and compared to especially even with a regular part store style flare tool, the NICOP is so much nicer to work with compared to the steel line. But yeah, I love the NICOP. It's really nice. This your average Fox body 8.8. Actually, this one's SN95 width to match.
Is that wider?
Yeah, it's a little bit wider. We had to run front space, a 3/4 inch spacer on the front to get everything to clear the strut and everything. So we originally were doing that with the Fox body with axle. We had spacers on the rear as well, but the SN95's about 3/4 of an inch wider, I think, per side, so we just don't run the rear spacers anymore.
Yeah.
But
wheel spacers.
Yeah. So we got some bomb-proof home fab lower control arms. So
they're huge.
Yeah. So
and that's all custom.
Yeah. So pretty early on in the autocross career of this thing, we were chewing through the rear bushings on the lower control arm specifically, every couple of events, and I was getting really tired of replacing them. So Jack and I engineered this. We built the fixture to get the length and everything right, and is
this stock or is this all this place?
So yeah, this is stock. This is the stock rear pickup.
And this is the Maximum Motorsports piece, which ties the strut and the Panhard bar.
Yeah.
And then this bar up here is just to brace this point.
Right.
So you goes up here and then it triangulates over there, and actually has it's like a big triangle right here. You got this going that side and coming back. It's a nice piece.
Yeah, I bought that I bought the Panhard bar off Tom Nelson used. He had bought it and never installed it, but they're
good having friends.
Yeah. But everything I bought from Maximum Motorsports I've been very happy with. But yeah, so we engineered these and built them.
Did you beef this up, it looks like?
Yeah, so it's got torque box reinforcement plates and stuff in it, which is pretty common for these cars. They bolt in through the floor pan and kind of tie everything in together.
Okay.
But so it's a relatively simple control arm. So it's a 2-inch box tubing. I think they're 3/16 wall, because that's what I had, which is comically huge. But
I thought you wanted a light unsprung weight. Not when you're worried about breaking pieces. So
sometimes you just need to nuke it from orbit. So
yeah.
But so it's 2-inch box, 3/16 wall. The bushing sleeves on the front side with the polyurethane bushing on the torque box, and these what they call enduro joints. They're all from Barnes Off-Road. They're typically like rock crawler stuff.
Oh, I thought that was something from military tanks or something.
Yeah. It's about that size. Yeah, but they're all kind of like off-road fare. So the enduro joint, we picked these because the car sees a ton of street time. Jack lives on a gravel road. Heims and gravel and dust and dirt.
Oh, does it have seals on the ends then?
Well, yeah, a little bit. So basically, what the enduro joints are, it's a spherical ball with a polyurethane cup on either side, and they're greasable. So
and Jack's running off back there. He's Bye, Jack.
So you kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds. You get most of the flexibility, the angle of the Heim, but you also get the isolation and kind of the wear of the polyurethane. And
Isolation, so it's not a steel regular.
so it's a steel hard chrome uniball, but it's on both sides. It's sitting in polyurethane cups.
Okay.
So it's not as rattly or as harsh as like a regular Heim would be.
Well, I thought maybe the center of the bushing, the center of the sphere might have had something between the ball and the bolt, but it's not. It's on the sides.
Yeah, it's all on the sides. And what the cool thing about them, they're rebuildable too. So
okay.
we just rebuilt this one. No, this one we rebuilt. I think last season. We had just actually in error used the wrong grease, and it kind of messed up the polyurethane. So that one needed to be rebuilt.
What kind of grease you have to use?
You got to use a moly grease from the research I've done. So like a.
So the grease you used to tact it. It was a.
Yeah, I use like regular wheel bearing grease, and it just kind of ate up the polyurethane. But yeah, they've served us well. They're greasable. They last a long time. We rebuilt this one just a couple weeks ago because it was just starting to get a little worn, and we're trying to prep for autocross week. So I was like, you know what, just gonna rebuild them, have a spare on hand. But all the stuff for the mount or for the arms we got from Barnes. They sell the threaded inserts that you weld into the end of the tube, and the bushing sleeve, because there's no adjustment up here. It's just a round piece of tube with bushings in it.
Again, Barnes is
Barnes off-road.
Barnes off-road.
But yeah, I mean it's comically big, and they're heavy. And what you can't see is like the shank on this joint like goes about to where my thumb is. It's just a ton of weight, but you
got a ton of power.
Well, I got a decent amount of power, but
the cornering and
yeah,
the
like we abuse the hell out of this car.
You're on and off the gas, starting to turn, slam on the brakes, everything else. It's not just the power; it's just beating the hell out of it.
That, and my thought was, I'd rather have a little bit of a weight penalty and know that it's probably never going to be an issue than to try to save a little bit of weight, go with a thinner tube. And if I break a lower rear control arm, no matter pretty much where I'm at, whether I'm in a parking lot or heaven forbid on the highway,
catastrophic.
It's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, you got all that rear steer. You don't want that.
Right. So the upper control arms, they're factory, but they're boxed, and we still run the rubber, factory rubber style bushings.
So you weren't having problems with the rubber bushings on the top. It was only the bottom.
No, the rubber. These cars, with the 4-link setup that they've got, especially with the panhard.
You got to have some give, or else you
got to have a little bit of compliance. And
so you don't have the stiff bushings on top either. They're stock.
No, they're all stock rubber bushings on the upper. The only thing.
But then the panhard, the people would put the stiffer ones on before is for lateral.
Yeah.
And that's why you put the stiffer, but then you have problems. But this, with the panhard bar, you can run the softer springs, so it works out. No, less bind.
Yeah, even without the panhard bar, if you run like a poly bushing on even like at all pivot points on this rear suspension, what happens is, because it doesn't have the compliance of the rubber, especially up top, it binds up and then breaks free, and binds up and breaks free. So it's really hard on the car. It can damage the torque boxes and whatnot. But it also
it's hard to drive.
It's very hard to drive. It induces a lot of like snap oversteer. It's just not a good recipe. People that have way more experience with Fox bodies than I do, like pretty much universally recommend the factory rubber bushings on the uppers. So that's what I did.
Yep.
I didn't
re-engineer the wheel.
Didn't re-engineer the wheel. Brings us to the back of the car.
The back of the car. I see you're ready for your trailer back there.
Yep. I got a homebrew DIY hitch that I welded up in college. Not the prettiest thing, but it's functional. Factory fuel tank. Early on in the autocross, we actually broke the baffle free in in a factory tank. Had like a weird noise, and it would randomly fuel starve. Trying to find out it was the baffle in the tank. So
that's some hard cornering.
Yeah, well, our junk parts.
Yeah.
Probably a bit of both. But we ended up I had another tank. So it's another used Fox body tank. When we did the EFI, We bought it's a complete drop-in fuel pump unit from Aeromotive.
Which is a good brand. I hear about them. If you ever want to use fuel pumps and the filters, the what do you call it, fuel pressure regulators, those are the people to go to.
Yeah, so it's complete like drop-in Fox body unit. You got to buy like the unit itself. I think it's a 340 liter per hour, but you got to buy like two other fittings to adapt like the top of the unit to whatever fuel lines you run. But other than that, it's never given us an issue. It's a great piece of kit. We ran -8 feed and -6 return aluminum hardline all the way to the front of the car. You might ask why not go braided or AN or flexible.
Cost?
It was about the same cost as this and probably would have been a lot easier. But for me, what we do with it, I wanted the hard line. There's flexible lines in the engine bay going to the rails, but I just wanted something I could just do it once and kind of forget about it. -8, -6, -8 feed, -6 return should give us more than enough headroom for a more rowdier motor or some means of forced induction down the road, which I think might be where this car's headed.
Okay, where's the lines?
So they're right here.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. So you got your -8 feed, your -6 return, and then.
Surprised you didn't kink the hell out of it.
It took a lot of finesse.
Yeah.
And then
what kind of fitting is this?
So this is a compression fitting that bites into the aluminum that then adapts it to a -8.
Okay.
And then we're running, if you can see it up here, kind of above the diff, it's a Summit branded
fuel filter.
Yeah. So.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, and then you can tell this thing, sees dirt and gravel, but all the soft lines, like the flexible lines going to the fuel pump and the ones in the engine bay, they're all Frigola. I like Frigola. It's kind of what the local speed shop sells. I've used it in the past, had good luck with it. It's push lock line. Looking back, I'd probably go with like a regular AN style, like ferrule threaded setup, but at the time I didn't really want to get into that, so we just used push lock.
I noticed with your hand there, you're not running a sway bar in the back.
Oh, we do. It's actually right over there in the corner.
Okay.
But
just a regular GT one.
Yeah, I think it's a regular GT bar.
Okay.
Nothing.
You just had to get it out of the way for all your work.
Yeah, so the Panhard cross member is a total bolt-in, but Maximum recommends welding it if you're gonna really use the car, and it's been in there and been bolted in for 3 years now, and we'd never welded it, and it never moved, didn't have any issue, but I was like, I'm just gonna weld it while I'm in there. Also, we had to do the brake line mod and the airbags and so
these airbags, in case you forgot, not steering wheel.
Yeah, helper bags for pulling a trailer, small trailer.
Which then when you get to the event, you let the air out.
Yeah.
Do your autocross, get back, pump it up, and and tow with. What are you gonna have on the trailer? You got the trailer here somewhere. It's a.
Yeah, I got the trailer outside. We'll show it to you. I haven't done anything with it.
No, it's just a Harbor Freight trailer, and you're gonna put a flat part on it to haul your spare tire and to haul whatever, a box with whether it's tools or
so
canopy or something.
Yeah, so the goal with the I got the canopy somewhere.
I just noticed the steering rack. You took that out too?
Oh yeah, we're putting a new rack in it and a new power steering pump.
Different ratio or just
nope, just another warranty rack from AutoZone.
Oh, the other one went bad, huh?
Yeah, I think we're on our 4th one.
Oh, so, nice.
I
got manual steering. I don't know about that kind of stuff. It's hard on the arms though, but
Back on a college kid budget, like lifetime warranty parts, I was like, yeah, whatever. But
glad you did.
I'm glad I did it. So, but yeah, so it was just easier to pull the diff, kind of get in here, weld everything, and kind of tidy up stuff, and then put all that back in. But that's why the sway bar and the exhaust and all that stuff's out. We'll have E-brake cables are dangling and all that kind of stuff. So
Work in progress.
yeah.
And when's the first autocross coming up? They pushed it off?
They pushed the first event off. I think what is on the schedule as event 2, but will be the first event, is April 21st.
Okay.
So
Are they going to just wipe out the first event or try to fit it in somewhere else?
I think we're just omitting it.
Okay. So the 21st.
Yeah.
That's the year that my one Mustang was built, April 21st, 1969. So it's kind of bad when you know the date that it was built, you know. But
Yeah, well, my SSP car, it's got the build on date on the back of the glove box. This thing, I have no idea when it was built.
Yeah.
So I mean, granted, it doesn't matter. There's not much original.
It was a friend's birthday, so he pointed it out one time. It's like, I don't care if it's your birthday, you're not getting the car. You know? So
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, the car's been really competitive, especially with the LS power the last couple of years.
And you went to the cam challenge,
Yeah.
the tire rack cam challenge. I think you came in first on that one, didn't you?
No, we had 2 cam challenges we went to last year in it. The first one was in May of 23 in St. Louis. Ended up 8th on Saturday, so it was like the last trophy spot. And then on Sunday in the shootout, I ended up 5th.
Okay, but that's a national event, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
people.
national event, and then
There are a lot of high dollar stuff out there, and if you're going to travel all across the country, these aren't just local people doing it. These are the professionals. So
yeah,
that's all they do.
Jack and I were.
I'm impressed you even got on the.
Yeah, we were immensely happy with the car, just to even be in the same ballpark as those guys, because and now it's got some better struts and shocks, but
I think there was like close to 40 some odd cars just in this class.
yeah, I mean, but like even last year and all the way up to this point, really, it's just kind of been cheap stock stuff that we've put on it. There's not really a whole lot of trick suspension stuff on it, and the car just seems to work. So we were really happy with that. Tim, Tom, and Muldoon and I, we went to later in August. We went to the Peru
the cam challenge up there.
Had some issues there. The slave cylinder, or not slave cylinder. Yeah, sorry. The throwout bearing and slave cylinder combo on this thing, it ended up having basically it was used going into this, and didn't have any issues, but from the environment, it ended up getting a bunch of like clutch disc material like in past the seal and kind of sludging up the hydraulic section of it, and had like very little clutch disengagement.
Okay.
So,
well, Peru, for people, that's on an airstrip. I think that's concrete. That's not like autocross on an asphalt parking lot. That's concrete. So there's a lot of grip up there.
Yeah, it was my first time ever on concrete, and it was very eye-opening. I was obviously disappointed to gonna go up there and run with like very little clutch, but we were able to make it work and kind of cram it in the second gear and just stay there. I think I ended up 13th at that event, but
out of how many cars? Still, they're usually 30, 40 cars. So
yeah, it was I think in the 30s, and it wasn't the car's fault. I ended up I went back and watched the footage. There's an easily avoidable cone that I shouldn't have taken out, and coulda, shoulda, woulda, but that would have been like 5 or 6 more spots up in the standings. But it is what it is. But yeah, we had some clutch issues with that, but luckily the clutch ended up fine. It was just the throwout bearing, and it's all back together and been
replace
flawless.
the bearing, or did you have to clean it, or?
We replaced it. So doing some post-mortem research on it, in that kind of in a track or autocross environment, the dust kind of bypasses the seal and doesn't make the hydraulic fluid leak out, but it prevents the fluid from moving the bearing itself and the piston. So what was happening, it was just
gunking it up. Yeah.
And when we got it all apart and cleaned it, or pulled it apart, there was all this clutch grit that came out of it, and we're like, okay, and kind of some analysis from stuff on the internet, you know, kind of determined that was our issue.
How long was that throwout bearing in there?
It was in there since we put the T56 in. So, and we had bled it, you know, a few times, especially going into when we first started having issues with it. And what we've determined,
Yeah, change it every 2 years.
well, really, we're in the every time we change the oil now, we completely bleed the clutch hydraulics, and that seems to have taken care of the issue. So, you know, just in that short amount of time, which for us is like every 3 events or 4 events or so, with a lot of street driving in between, you know, we'll bleed or completely bleed that hydraulic circuit, and the fluid that comes out of it's like definitely contaminated. You know, but the name of the game there is just keep clean fluid in it, flush all that grit out of it, and we shouldn't have any issues.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, we went from nose to tail, so I think we pretty much covered it. So, well, thank you, Jake. Again, if you're still with us, if you can like, subscribe. We need the 500 subscribers to make it to the 2024 No Name Nationals. And I'd like to thank Jake, and I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Street creature. Oh, well. kept it. Maybe it's just noise. And he's moving. No, they're just running close together because it's towards the end of the race and they're just doing a shootout. They each get 2 runs. And then the best of the 2 runs, I don't know, sometimes they add the times together. But the best of the 2 runs, and they figure your position for the race. Come on, Jake, keep it clean.